starts now.
We've talked a lot about football in this podcast. New leagues, former leagues, leagues going belly up. There are two leagues that I've been checking out recently on YouTube, the American Football League and the Continental Football League. It's especially fun for football fans to watch games from the American Football League, featuring teams like the Buffalo Bills, Houston Oilers, Boston Patriots, Oakland Raiders, and Dallas Texans. There's even a great documentary series about the league and its eventual merger into the National Football League. Did you know that the Texans moved to Kansas City to become the Chiefs? Well, of course you did. They were the team to win the last championship of the American Football League, and a team that has become somewhat acquainted with championships in recent years. The AFL played through the 1960s before setting up as the AFC Conference in the NFL. Another league that played during the same period but today receives scant attention was the Continental Football League. The COFL operated from 1965, with its first season in 1966, wrapping up after the 1969 season. This one was interesting for a bunch of different reasons. Here's a league that extended up to Canada and down to Mexico. The inaugural season in '66 featured two divisions, Eastern and Western. Club cities included Brooklyn, Orlando, Richmond, and Hartford, and interestingly, Toronto and Montreal. The two Canadian teams would represent the first time that professional football teams from a US-based American Football League would find homes in Canada, known as the Toronto Rifles and the Montreal Beavers. A third Canadian team, the Victoria Steelers, joined later and would last only one season. Also short-lived but history-making were the Mexico Golden Aztecs, a club that represented the first of its kind to play North American pro football out of Mexico. The COFL's final season featured 5 divisions, 2 of which were exclusive to Texas, an odd quirk due to mergers and affiliations with other small leagues. Notable for Canadian football fans, the Toronto Rifles played from 1964 to '67. They played one season at Maple Leaf Stadium, long since demolished, and the remainder of its franchise existence at the University of Toronto's Varsity Stadium, since rebuilt. On a related note, Varsity was also home to the Toronto Argonauts of the Canadian Football League for many seasons. And speaking of the Argos, in addition to the revenue problems for the Rifles, the team also saw its demise partly because the Argos signed away the head coach of the Toronto Rifles, the legendary Leo Cahill, the man responsible for bringing Joe Theismann and an old friend of mine, the late Dick Thornton, into the Toronto fold, along with other football greats, quarterback Tom Wilkinson and running back Joe Williams. You can find some great footage, not only of the Continental Football League, but also of the AFL on YouTube. I've also seen some fun memorabilia, such as programs for the Toronto Rifles and the Montreal Beavers, available for sale on eBay, all of which help pass the time during these winter months without live football. Visit stephenchristiansen.ca for more episodes. This podcast is available on all streaming platforms, including Anchor, Spotify, TuneIn, Amazon, and Apple. I'm Stephen Christiansen. Thanks for listening.
A production of Stephen Christensen. Podcast complete.